For terms specifically related to sewing, see Glossary of sewing terms. For terms specifically related to dyeing, see Glossary of dyeing terms. The manufacture of textiles is one of the oldest of human technologies. To make textiles, the first requirement is a source of fiber from which a yarn can be made, primarily by spinning. The yarn is processed by knitting or weaving, which turns yarn into cloth. The machine used for weaving is the loom. For decoration, the process of coloring yarn of the finished material is dyeing. For more information of the various steps, see textile manufacturing. A. Absorbency, a measure of how much amount of water a fabric can absorb. Acetate. Acetate is a synthetic fiber. Acrylic fiber is a synthetic polymer fiber that contains at least 85% acrylonitrile. Aida cloth. Aida cloth is a coarse open weave fabric traditionally used for cross-stitch. Alnage. Alnage is the official supervision of the shape and quality of manufactured woolen cloth. Alpaca. Alpaca is a name given to two distinct things: the wool of the Peruvian alpaca, a style of fabric originally made from alpaca fiber but now frequently made from a similar type of fiber. Angora. Angora refers to the hair of the Angora rabbit, or the fabric made from Angora rabbit fur. Applique. Applique is a sewing technique in which fabric shapes, lace or trim, are sewn onto a foundation fabric to create designs. Aramid. Aramid fiber is a fire-resistant and strong synthetic fiber. Argyle. An argyle pattern is one containing diamonds in a sort of diagonal checkerboard pattern. Backstrap loom. Backstrap looms, as the name implies, are tied around the weaver's waist on one end and around a stationary object such as a tree, post, or door on the other. Tension can be adjusted simply by leaning back. Backstrap looms are very portable, since they can simply be rolled up and carried. Baize. Baize is a coarse woolen or cotton cloth, often colored red or green. Ballistic nylon. Ballistic nylon is a thick, tough synthetic fabric used for a variety of applications. Barathea. Barathea is an indistinct twill or broken rib, usually a twilled hop sack weave, with a fine textured, slightly pebbled surface, often of silk or silk blended with wool, used for neckties, women's fine suits and coats, men's and women's evening wear. Batik. Batik is an Indonesian traditional word and refers to a generic wax-resist dyeing technique used on fabric. Bedford cord. Bedford cord is a combination of two kinds of weave, namely plain and drill. It is a durable fabric that is often used in upholstery or outerwear. Bias. The bias direction of a piece of woven fabric, usually referred to simply as the bias, is at 45 degrees to its warp and weft threads. Every piece of woven fabric has two biases, perpendicular to each other. Binding. In sewing, binding is used as both a noun and a verb to refer to finishing a seam or hem of a garment, usually by rolling or pressing, then stitching on and edging a trim. Blend. A blend is a fabric or yarn made up of more than one type of fiber. Bobbin lace. Bobbin lace is a delicate lace that uses wound spools of thread to weave together the shapes in the lace. Bobbinet. Bobbinet is a tulle netting with hexagonal-shaped holes, traditionally used as a base for embroidery and lingerie. Bombazine. Bombazine is a fabric originally made of silk or silk and wool, and now also made of cotton and wool or of wool alone. It is twilled or corded and used for dress material. Braid. To braid is to interweave or twine three or more separate strands of one or more materials in a diagonally overlapping pattern. Broadcloth. Material of superior quality. Brocade. Forming patterns in cloth with a supplementary weft. Buckram. Buckram is a stiff cloth made of cotton or linen, which is used to cover and protect a book, and although more expensive than its look-alike, Brella is stronger and resistant to cockroaches eating it. Buckram can also be used to stiffen clothes. Burlap. Burlap is a type of cloth often used for sacks. See calico. Calico is a type of fabric made from unbleached, and often not fully processed, cotton. Also referred to a type of printing. Cambric. Cambric is a lightweight cotton cloth used as fabric for lace and needlework. Camel's hair. Camel's hair is a natural fiber from the camel. Camel hair can produce a variety of different coarseness of yarn. This fiber is a novelty fiber spun by hand spinners. Canvas. Canvas is an extremely heavy-duty fabric used for making sails, tents, marquees, and other functions where sturdiness is required. It is also popularly used on fashion handbags. Canvas work. Canvas work is embroidery on canvas. Carding. Carding is the processing of brushing raw washed fibers to prepare them as textiles. Carpet. A carpet is any loom-woven, felted textile, a grass floor covering. Cashmere. Cashmere is wool from the cashmere goat. Cellulose. Cellulose, this fiber processed to make cellophane and rayon, and more recently modal, a textile derived from beechwood cellulose. Cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is a loose-woven cotton cloth, such as is used in pressing cheese curds. Chiffon. Chiffon is a sheer fabric made of silk or rayon. Chino cloth. Chino cloth is a kind of twill fabric, usually made primarily from cotton. Chintz. Chintz is calico cloth printed with flowers and other devices in different colors. It was originally of Eastern manufacture. Coir. Coir is a coarse fiber extracted from the fibrous outer shell of a coconut. Color. Fast colors that will bleed or fade very easily from washing, specifically a textile's ability to maintain its color without running or fading. Cord. Cord is twisted fiber, usually intermediate between rope and string. It is also used as a shortened form of corduroy. Corduroy. Corduroy is a durable cloth. Cotton. Cotton is a soft fiber that grows around the seeds of the cotton plant, a shrub native to the tropical and subtropical regions of both the Old World and the New World. The fiber is most often spun into thread and used to make a soft, breathable textile. Crash. Crash is a rough fabric made from yarns that are usually undyed. The coarsest type is called Russian crash. Linen is generally used for the warp yarn, while linen and jute are used for the filler. Crepe. Crepe is a silk fabric of a gauzy texture, having a peculiar crisp or crimpy appearance. Crazy quilt. Crazy quilting is the textile art of patchworking. Crinoline. Crinoline was originally a stiff fabric with a weft of horsehair and a warp of cotton or linen thread. The fabric first appeared around 1830. Cross-stitch. Cross-stitch is a popular form of counted thread embroidery in which X-shaped stitches are used to form a picture. Crochet. The process of creating fabric from a length of cord, yarn, or thread with a hook tool. Crochet hook. A crochet hook is a type of needle, usually with a hook at one end, used to draw thread through knotted loops. Crow hook. The crow hook is a special double-ended crochet hook used to make double-sided crochet. Because the hook has two ends, two colors of thread can be handled at once and freely interchanged. Damask. Damask is a fabric of silk, wool, linen, cotton, or synthetic fibers with a pattern formed by weaving. Today, it generally denotes a linen texture richly figured in the weaving with flowers, fruit, forms of animal life, and other types of ornament. Darning mushroom. A darning mushroom is a tool which can be used for darning clothes, particularly socks. The sock can be stretched over the top of the mushroom and gathered tightly around the stalk. Denim. Denim denotes a rugged cotton twill textile. Dimity. Dimity is a lightweight, sheer cotton fabric having at least two warp threads thrown into relief to form fine cords. Dobby Loom. Dobby Loom is a loom in which each harness can be manipulated individually. This is in contrast to a treadle loom, where the harnesses are attached to a number of different treadles depending on the weave structure. Double weave. Double weave is a type of advanced weave. It is done by interlacing 2 or more sets of warps with 2 or more sets of filling yarns. Dowlas is the name given to a plain cloth, similar to sheeting, but usually coarser. Durability. How durable a fabric a yarn is. Dyes. Dye is used to color fabric. There are 2 main types: natural dyes and synthetic dyes. The process is called dyeing. Dye lot. Dye lot is a number that identifies yarns dyed in the same vat at the same time. Subtle differences can appear between different batches of the same color yarn from the same manufacturer. Elasticity. Embroidery. Embroidery is an ancient variety of decorative needlework in which designs and pictures are created by stitching strands of some material onto a layer of another material. See also machine embroidery. Ends per inch. Ends per inch, like threads per inch, is a measure of the coarseness or fineness of fabric, displaying the number of threads per inch of woven fabric. Epping Lay Fabric. A type of velvet fabric woven on a wire loom or Epping Lay Loom. The Epping Lay Velvet is notable in that both a loop pile and a cut pile can be integrated into the same fabric. The art of Epping Lay weaving in Europe originated from Lucca and later came to Venice and Genoa, which is where the term Genivar Velvet comes from. The technique of Epping Lay weaving is still used today in the Flemish region of Kortrijk and Waregem. The fabric finds its application mostly in upholstery, although in medieval times it was used as apparel for princes and kings as well as for bishops, cardinals, and the Pope. Epping Lay Loom, a kind of weaving machine whereby steel rods are inserted in a top shed which is formed over the bottom shed in which the weft is inserted. The steel rods are inserted into the fabric every second or third pick by a separate mechanism that is synchronized with the weaving motion. The same mechanism also extracts the rods from the fabric. If the rod carries a cutting blade at the tip, the warps that are woven over the rods are cut, creating a cut pile effect. In case the rod has no blade, then the warp ends from a loop pile. Alternating cut and loop wires create cut and loop pile in the fabric. This weaving technology is used for weaving velvets for furnishing and apparel applications. These fabrics are known as moquette or Epping Lay fabrics. This kind of weaving machine is also used for weaving carpets, where it is known as a Quilting loom. Even weave fabric is used in counted thread embroidery and is characterized by warp and weft threads of the same size. Eyelet grommets and eyelets are metal, plastic, or rubber rings that are inserted into a hole made through another material. They may be used to reinforce the hole, to shield something from the sharp edges of the hole, or both. Facing felt. Felt is a non-woven cloth that is produced by matting, condensing and pressing fibers. The fibers form the structure of the fabric. Felting. The process of making felt is called felting. Fiber. A fiber is a class of materials that are continuous filaments or are in discrete elongated pieces, similar to pieces of thread. Fibers are often used in the manufacture of other materials. They can be spun into filaments, thread, or rope. They can be used as a component of composite materials. They can also be matted into sheets to make products such as paper or felt. Filament. A filament is a fine, thinly spun thread, fiber, or wire. Filling. Weft. Finishing. Finishing refers to any process performed on yarn or fabric after weaving to improve the look, performance, or hand of the finished textile. Fishnet. Fishnet is a material with an open, diamond-shaped net. Flannel. Flannel is a cloth that is commonly used to make clothing and bed sheets. It is usually made from either wool and cotton, or wool and synthetic fabric. Flax. Flax fiber is soft, lustrous and flexible. It is stronger than cotton fiber but less elastic. The best grades are used for linen fabrics such as damasks, lace and sheeting. Coarser grades are used for the manufacturing of twine and rope. Frieze is a coarse woolen cloth with a nap on one side that was raised by scrubbing it to raise curls of fiber. In the 19th century, rough cheap frieze was made of wool mixed with shoddy. Fulling is a step in cloth making which involves the cleansing of cloth to get rid of oils, dirt, and other impurities. Fustian, a type of heavy twilled woven cotton fabrics, chiefly prepared for menswear, usually dyed in a dark shade, declined in popularity from 1813, being replaced by harder wearing and better quality wool cloths. Gabardine. Gabardine is a tough, tightly woven fabric often used to make suits, overcoats and trousers. The fiber used to make the fabric is traditionally worsted, but may also be cotton, synthetic or mixed. The fabric is smooth on one side and has a diagonally ribbed surface on the other. Gauge. A gauge is a set number of rows per inch of the thread count of a woven fabric that helps the knitter determine whether they have the right size. Knitting needles or a weaver if the cloth is tight enough. Gante. Gante is a cloth made from cotton or tow warp and jute weft. It is largely used for bags for sugar and similar material, and has the appearance of a fine Hessian cloth. Gauze is a very light, sheer, fine woven fabric. Genivar Velvet, a type of velvet wherein jacquard patterns are woven into the ground fabric and where the pile is made of a combination of cut and uncut pile. This fabric is also known as Venetian Velvet, or more generally, as Epping Lay Velvet. In the actual terminology of furnishing fabrics, it is mostly named with its French name, velours de gens. This kind of fabric is made on a wire loom or Epping Lay Loom. Geotextile. A geotextile is a synthetic permeable textile. Gingham is a fabric made from dyed cotton yarn. Glass fiber. Fiberglass is material made from extremely fine fibers of glass. It is widely used in the manufacture of insulation and textiles. Gossamer. Gossamer is a very light, sheer, gauze-like fabric, popular for white wedding dresses and decorations. Gragram is a coarse fabric of silk mixed with wool or with mohair and often stiffened with gum. It also is known as grosgrain. Pedal, common component of a loom used to separate warp threads for passage of the weft. Commonly made of corduroy. Hem. To hem a piece of cloth, a garment worker folds up a cut edge, folds it up again, and then sews it down. The process of hemming thus completely encloses the cut edge in cloth, so that it cannot ravel. A hem is also the edge of cloth hemmed in this manner. Hemp. The main uses of hemp fiber are rope, sacking, carpet, nets and webbing. Hemp is also being used in increasing quantities in paper manufacturing. The cellulose content is about 70%. Huckerback. Huckerback is a type of coarse absorbent cotton or linen fabric used for making towels. Ikat. Ikat is a style of weaving that uses a tie-dye process on either the warp or weft before the threads are woven to create a pattern or design. A double ikat is when both the warp and the weft are tie-dyed before weaving. Imberline. Imberline is a woven fabric with various colored stripes in the warp, often separated by gold thread. The fabric is often used in upholstery and drapery manufacture. Intarsia. Intarsia is a knitting technique used to create patterns with multiple colors. Interfacing. A type of material used on the unseen or wrong side of fabrics in sewing. Jacquard. Jacquard loom. The jacquard loom was the first machine to use punched cards. It uses punched cards to control the pattern being woven. It is a form of Dobby Loom, where individual harnesses can be raised and lowered independently. Jamdani. Jamdani is a kind of fine cloth made in Bangladesh. Jute. Jute is a long, soft, shiny plant fiber that can be spun into coarse, strong threads. Jute is one of the cheapest natural fibers, and is second only to cotton in amount produced and variety of uses. Jute fibers are composed primarily of the plant materials cellulose and lignin. K. Knitting. Knitting is the process of interlooping of yarns or intermeshing of loops. Knit fabrics. Knit fabrics are fabrics that were produced through the process of knitting. Knitting needle gauge. A knitting needle gauge is used to determine the size of a knitting needle. Some also double for crochet hooks. Most needles come with the size written on the needle, but many needles tend to not be labeled. Also, with wear and time the label often wears off. Needle gauges can be made of any material, and are often made for metal and plastic. They tend to be about 3 by 5 inches. They contain holes of various sizes, and often have a ruler along the edge for determining the gauge of a sample. L. Lace. Lace making is an ancient craft. A lace fabric is lightweight open-work fabric, patterned either by machine or by hand, with open holes in the work. The holes can be formed via removal of threads or cloth from a previously woven fabric, but more often lace is built up from a single thread and the open spaces are created as part of the lace fabric. Lame. Lame is a type of brocaded clothing fabric within woven metal threads, typically of gold or silver, giving it a metallic sheen. Lawn. Lawn is a fine linen or cotton cloth. Linen is a material made from the fibers of the flax plant. Linen produced in Ireland is called Irish linen. Linens are fabric household goods, such as pillowcases and towels. Lining. Loden is water-resistant material for clothing made from sheep wool. Loom. The loom is a machine used for weaving fabric. Loose is a method of cord making or braiding which is believed to date back to the Viking Age. Loose cord is square, strong, and slightly springy. It closely resembles knitted I-cord, the cord produced on a knitting spool. Loose cord is formed by a series of loops, and will therefore unravel if cut. Macrame. Macrame is a form of textile making using knotting rather than weaving and knitting. Its primary knots are the square knot and forms of hitching. Mercerized cotton. Mercerization is a treatment for cotton fabric and thread mostly employed to give cotton a lustrous appearance. Merino. Merino is the Spanish name for a breed of sheep, and hence applied to a woolen fabric. Mesh. Mesh is similar to fabric or a web in that it has many connected or weaved pieces. In clothing, a mesh is often defined as fabric that has a large number of closely spaced holes, such as is common practice for modern sports jerseys. Metallic fiber. Metallic fibers are fibers used in textiles which are either composed of metal or fibers of other materials with a metal coating. The uses include decoration and the reduction of static electricity. Microfiber fibers with strands thinner than 1 denier. Fabrics made with microfibers are exceptionally soft and hold their shape well. Millinery. Millinery is women's hats and other articles sold by a milliner, or the profession or business of designing, making, or selling hats for women. Mocado. Mocado is a woolen pile fabric made in imitation of silk velvet. Modal. Modal is a cellulose fiber made by spinning reconstituted cellulose from beech trees. Mohair. Mohair is a silk-like fabric made from the hair of the Angora goat. It is durable, light and warm, although some people find it uncomfortably itchy. Mungo. Fibrous woolen material generated from waste fabric, particularly tightly woven cloths and rags. See also, Shadi. Muslin. Muslin is a type of finely woven cotton fabric, introduced to Europe from the Middle East in the 17th century. It was named for the city where it was first made, Mosul in what is now Iraq. Nansuk. Nansuk is a fine, soft muslin fabric, often used to make babies' clothing. Nap is the raised surface of certain cloth, such as flannel. Needlepoint. Needlepoint is a form of canvas work created on a mesh canvas. The stitching threads used may be wool, silk, or rarely cotton. Stitches may be plain, covering just one mesh intersection with a single orientation, or fancy, such as spargello. Plain stitches, known as tent stitches, may be worked as basket weave or half cross. Needlework. Needlework is another term for the handicraft of decorative sewing and textile arts. Anything that uses a needle for construction can be called needlework. Net. Net is a device made by fibers woven in a grid-like structure, as in fishing net, a soccer goal, a butterfly net, or the cord divider in tennis. Non-woven fabric. Non-woven textiles are those which are neither woven nor knit, for example felt. Non-wovens are typically not strong and do not stretch. They are cheap to manufacture. Novelty yarn. Novelty yarn. Nylon. Nylon is a synthetic polymer, a plastic. Nylon fibers are used to make many synthetic fabrics and women's stockings. Oilcloth. Oilcloth was, traditionally, heavy cotton or linen cloth with a linseed oil coating. It was semi-waterproof. The most familiar use was for brightly printed kitchen tablecloths. Dull-colored oilcloth was used for bedrolls, sou'westers, and tents. By the late 1950s, oilcloth became a synonym for vinyl bonded to either a flanneled cloth or a printed vinyl with a synthetic non-woven backing. Organdy. Organdy or organdy is the sheerest cotton cloth made. Combed yarns contribute to its appearance. Its sheerness and crispness are the result of an acid finish on greige lawn goods. Because of its stiffness and fiber content, it is very prone to wrinkling. Organza. Organza is a thin, plain weave, sheer fabric traditionally made from silk, the continuous filament of silkworms. Nowadays, though many organzas are woven with synthetic filament fibers such as polyester or nylon, the most luxurious organzas are still woven in silk. Paisley. Paisley is a droplet-shaped vegetal motif, similar to half of the Tyche symbol, the Indian body tree leaf, or the mango tree. The design originated in India and spread to Scotland when British soldiers brought home cashmere shawls. Patchwork. Patchwork is a form of needlework, a craft that involves sewing together small pieces of fabric and stitching them together into a larger design, which is then usually quilted, or else tied together with pieces of yarn at regular intervals, a practice known as tying. Patchwork is traditionally pieced by hand, but modern quilt makers often use a sewing machine instead. Percale. Percale refers to a closely woven, high thread count, cotton fabric often used for sheets and clothing. Persian weave. Persian weave is a method of weave used in jewelry and other art forms. Pile knit. Pile knit. Pile weave. Pile weave. Pile wire. A steel rod which is inserted in between the base fabric and the pile ends in a pile fabric woven on a wire loom or Epping Lay Loom. The height and thickness of the rod determine the size of the loop. A pile wire can be a simple rod, in which case the pile yarns will form a loop pile. If the pile wire is equipped with a blade holder and cutting blade at the tip, it will cut the pile loops during extraction, thus producing cut pile. Plaid. From a Scots language word meaning blanket, plaid usually referring to patterned woolen cloth otherwise known as tartan. Plain weave. Plain weave. Clyde yarn. Plied yarn is yarn that has been plied, with the process called plying. Plush. Plush is a fabric having a cut nappa pile the same as fustian or velvet. Polyester. Polyester is a synthetic fiber. Poplin. Poplin is a heavy, durable fabric that has a ribbed appearance. It is made with wool, cotton, silk, rayon, or any mixture of these. The ribs run across the fabric from selvage to selvage. They are formed by using coarse filling yarns in a plain weave. Punched, a type of fabric structure that gives different holes or figured textures per stitch.